Welcome to my July haul video. Nope, this is a July reads video, not a July haul video. One thing you'll notice is I have a different camera this time. I don't know how to frame myself in it, so hopefully everything works out just fine. I don't have to record this multiple times because that would just make me very cranky. So this month I read 7 books, which is more than I was expecting because my mom was visiting for a week, so there was a week there where I wasn't able to read any books. So having read 7 books in a month where I had a week where I couldn't read is impressive for me. I read a couple good ones, a couple okay ones, and one that I just did not enjoy at all. But there's a lot of books, so let's just get right into it. The first book that I read this month is actually my favorite book, like ever, is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. It's my favorite book of the year so far. It's like the best book that I've read in a long time, actually. It follows a group of gang members as they try to infiltrate and rescue someone from an impenetrable prison. The plot isn't anything all that new or interesting. The thing that makes it good is like the characters in it. Like the 6 gang members work together and they mesh so well as characters, and there's magic thrown in, and I'm a big sucker for anything with magic. The characters are the biggest draw to the story for me. I really began to care for each one of these 6 characters, especially Nina. I did have some problems with Nina as she ended up getting captured a lot, but when she wasn't being captured she could kill a man with her bare hands because, well, not with her bare hands, but with the magic she focused through her hands because she was a heartbender, which means she could stop organs from working and stop people's blood from flowing, and I'm just like, yes, kill them all, Nina. By the end of this book, everyone was my baby. They're all my babies, and I desperately need the sequel, which is coming out next month sometime, I think, and I need it. I need it so bad. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read is Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. This was a really good book. It's definitely a book for book lovers. Basically the plot follows this young man who recently lost his mother and can't remember her face and wakes up in a panic one night because he can't remember what she looks like. So he ends up picking up this book that his father had gotten for him and then kind of gets all caught up in the story of it. And then when he decides to go and look for more books that this author's written, he's found out that someone has gone around and systematically destroyed every copy of this man's book except for the one that he's holding. So that inspires him to go forward and try and unravel the mystery of this author's life and who's destroying his work, and it's such a good story. I can't really tell you more about the plot because every revelation that happens in the story kind of affects how everything before it is kind of portrayed. Like there is at one point where there's one revelation and I think I gasped audibly, like out loud, and I kind of leaned back and I closed my book and I just kind of held it there and I was thinking like, oh my god. Oh my god, I just repeated that over and over as I was trying to like figure out exactly how that changed absolutely everything in the story before, and it got real weird and it was real good. 5 out of 5 stars, obviously, on Goodreads. You should get this one if you don't have it. The third book that I read this month was Cinder by Marissa Meyer. It's a Cinderella retelling involving robots and cyborgs and aliens from the moon. It's kind of an older one, so if you like the series you've probably already heard about it and read it, but basically Cinderella, or Cinder as she's called in this one, is a cyborg in a world where cyborgs are treated as less than human. They're more treated like property. And there's a plague from the moon killing humans, and it's kind of a really predictable story. It's not bad by any stretch of the word, but it's just, there's really no plot twist that you don't see coming, kind of thing. The staircase scene, though, was weird. You know, the one in, like, the Disney Cinderella movie where she runs down the stairs and her glass slipper falls off and she's like, oh no, and everything like that. They do a version of that in here because, well, I mean, you kind of have to when you're talking Cinderella, but her whole foot comes off and the prince goes and picks up her whole foot and looks at it and carries it off with him while she's kind of lying at the bottom of the stairs with one foot. And it's weird. Like, it got real weird in it. I don't know. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. But it's more like a high 3 than an actual 4. The fourth book that I read this month is American Gods by Neil Gaiman. This was my very first Neil Gaiman book. I might have picked the wrong one to start with. I should have gone with Stardust because I love the movie and figured I was at least familiar with the story a little bit. But this one follows an ex-con named Shadow who gets released from prison to find out that his wife and basically everything he knows is gone. And he meets this strange, creepy dude on an airplane and that man hires him to be a bodyguard for him in the upcoming war between the old gods and the new. This is definitely more of a slower paced book. It took a long time to get the plot going and for all like the different revelations and stuff to come together, which I really did appreciate because it built up more to it, so there was a bigger payoff. I really enjoyed the plot element where the gods were only as powerful as people were believing in them, because like that's just something I am 100% down for. Big fan. Yeah, other than that though, it was a really good book. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Pretty sure. The next book that I read is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. As I said in the haul video, this I mostly just bought as kind of like a placeholder to sate my need for Crooked Kingdoms when it comes out next month, the sequel to Six of Crows. It's by the same author. I didn't enjoy this one as much as I thought I would, and I think that's mostly my fault, more than it is the fault of this book. I kind of went into it expecting to be blown away by it because I loved Six of Crows so much, but I wasn't. It was more of a generic young adult story than I was expecting. But again, that's my problem, not this book's problem. It's still a good book. The story follows little orphan Alina as she is attacked by these weird shadow monster creatures, and it's revealed that she can summon sunlight, or just light, from her body itself. And in this world, people who can use magic are taken to an academy, so she's taken away from everything she knows and thrown into an academy to train and hone her powers so that she can eventually go and seal the rift thing with all the monsters in it. But I mean, like, that's too straightforward of a plot, so obviously things go awry. After I finished this book, it was hard to give it, like, a proper review on Goodreads. Mostly because I couldn't separate this story from Six of Crows. Like, I kept comparing the two together. I ended up giving it 4 stars because I still really liked it. It just wasn't what I was expecting from it. But again, that's my problem, not the problem with the book. But so 4 out of 5 stars. It was a good read. I'm going to pick up the rest of the trilogy because I just really like Leigh Bardugo and the way that she writes. Yeah. So the last book that I read was Stormfront by Jim Butcher. I got some problems with this book. The story follows Harry Dresden, who is a wizard and a detective, and he's living in Chicago helping the Chicago Police Department with murders that happen in a more magical nature, which is something I am totally on board for. But there's so many problems holding this one back for me. It feels like every time the plot slows down, some helpless woman comes along and is all, "Ooh, help me, Harry," and then, like, that's what spurs the plot forward, is just some hapless, useless woman. And it gets really old really fast, because it happens multiple times throughout this book. Most of the conflict in this book between Harry and Murphy is caused by the fact that Harry's kind of an ass and doesn't properly communicate things to her. Like, if you had just explained yourself a little bit better, there would be no conflict between the two of them, and they could work together more, and it'd be more of like a buddy cop kind of urban fantasy wizard detective story, which would be better, I think, for me, than Harry just being an asshole and trying to do everything himself while protecting women, and it's just kind of sleazy. I don't know. Every time I'm in the bookstore, the people working there tell me the series gets better, and I'm kind of inclined to believe them. It's got potential, and I've read one of his latest books, the Cinder Spires, the Aeronauts Windlass, and it's one of my favorite books that I've read this year. Probably got usurped by Six of Crows, and so, like, I can see that he can write a good story, so I'm really hoping this gets better. So I'm going to stick it out for at least another... Who am I kidding? I'm just going to buy them all and read them all, but, like, I really hope it gets better than what this is. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, because I'm generous, I guess. This month I only read one manga. I didn't read any graphic novels. Like, I didn't read any comics this month, which is weird. I finished Food Wars by Yuto Sakuda. I was a fan of the show, and now I'm a fan of the manga. The story follows Yukihira as he's kind of coerced into joining a cooking academy by his father, who kind of shuts their family restaurant and just pieces out to Europe or America, someplace with lots of white people, because they're drawn really strangely in this manga. It's a fun, frantic, fast-paced manga. It's funny, and there's recipes in it for food that I will actually make. No. I'm not gonna make them. I'm just gonna eat like pancakes and eggs for the rest of my life. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. 5 out of 5 stars. And that is all of the books that I've read in July. It's a far more impressive stack than I was expecting this month. Kudos to me. So leave a comment down below if you've read any of these books and you want to talk about them. If you agree with my opinions or don't, let me know. I have links to both my Goodreads and my Twitter account below this video in the description. You can follow me and stalk me on there and we can talk more about this stuff. And yeah, I guess I'll see you next time. Bye!